This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. We're learning more tonight about the two people killed by an accused impaired driver on Saturday. Family and friends of the couple killed in a hit-and-run crash over the weekend are holding prayers over a sacred fire and trying to come to terms with what police say was a preventable tragedy. The two have been identified as 31-year-old Igor Popov and 25-year-old Carrie Bonner. Friends say the two had been in a relationship for a number of years and had a child together. Police say a 46-year-old pickup driver hit the two on Kenaston Boulevard before taking off. Kuldeep Singh has been arrested in connection. Police say he was impaired and driving at a high speed at the time of the crash. He faces multiple charges. Singh also has a previous conviction for a 2016 drunk driving incident. Meantime, police say a multi-vehicle crash that closed the North Perimeter yesterday morning was caused by an impaired driver. It happened around 7:45 Monday morning, just east of Pipeline Road. Police say a dump truck traveling westbound collided into the back of several other vehicles stopped at the traffic lights. One man needed to be extricated and taken to hospital. Police say the dump truck driver failed a roadside screening and was arrested for impaired driving. He's been charged and his license has been suspended. The province has made an agreement with the Manitoba First Nation to have a hunting buffer zone enforced in the area. It comes after the community said it would turn away outside hunters. The development came the same day moose hunting season opened on Bloodvein First Nation's traditional territory. CBC's Gavin Axelrod has more.
This check stop outside Bloodvein First Nation is used to keep drugs and alcohol out of the community. Bloodvein called on the province in August to limit hunting in their traditional territory to help preserve the moose population. When hunting season opened Monday, they were prepared to turn away non-Indigenous hunters.
We've come to an agreement for this hunting season with a plan to discuss further seasons ahead.
Hours later, the province announced a buffer zone for the 2025 season of 500 meters on either side of Rice River Road within Game Hunting Area 17B and 500 meters on either side of Bloodvein River and Name Falls up to the border of Hunting Area 17, 17A, and 17B. We asked for an interview with Manitoba's Natural Resource Minister Ian Bushy on Tuesday, but he wasn't immediately made available. Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew was asked if First Nations should have control of conservation on their land and licensing of outside hunters.
We want everybody to make the most of this province. Speaking of myself, I'm a gun owner. I'm teaching my kids how to hunt safely, but I want everyone in this province to be able to learn to live off the land, to have a safe, clean, healthy environment.
The Manitoba Wildlife Federation took issue with the province's decision.
Unfortunately, we're not seeing the government taking the leadership role here and getting everybody to the table. So you can't make knee-jerk decisions at the last minute when the hunting season started and expect there to be, everybody working in collaboration.
But Bloodvein's actions are drawing support from other Manitoba First Nations.
It's always been our responsibility to take care of the land as the land will take care of us. The fresh water, the foods, it sustained us.
Black River put up these signs in 2018. Chief Sheldon Kent says it's not only had a positive impact on wildlife, but preserving nature areas used for the community's land-based programs.
But what we're doing in Black River is exercising our sovereign right to the land, and we're exercising our treaty rights by protecting what we have. Because if we don't protect it, who's going to do it for us?
He wants to see Manitoba chiefs at the table for future conversations about a way forward for all. Gavin Axelrod, CBC News, Winnipeg.
An elderly couple are recovering after police say they were attacked during a random home invasion last night. The incident happened around 6:30 p.m. at a house on Meredith Bay in the Templeton neighborhood. Officers say the couple were sitting in their living room when a stranger entered their home with a knife. The man was stabbed and the woman was punched. The suspect then ran away and someone called 911. Police say the suspect was found intoxicated nearby. A 23-year-old has been charged. Speculation is growing about which neighborhoods could be getting new affordable homes. This after the Prime Minister announced Winnipeg as one of the initial 6 cities to benefit from 4,000 factory-built houses. Mark Harney says they'll go on federal lands, but where exactly remains unclear. CBC's Josh Crabb reports.
In an effort to fight homelessness in Winnipeg and elsewhere in the country, a new federal agency called Build Canada Homes has been tasked with building affordable homes faster. And some advocates like Jackie Hunt with End Homelessness Winnipeg are feeling cautiously optimistic about it.
The reality is that the federal government is the only one with the purse large enough to kick off the housing that's required to sort of getting us out of this housing crisis, which leads into homelessness.
One of the first jobs for the new agency will be building 4,000 modular homes on federal lands across 6 sites, including Winnipeg. There will be a focus on affordable mixed-income communities, but the agency is also tasked with creating deeply affordable non-market housing. Shauna McKinnon with the Right to Housing Coalition is hopeful, but says there are still a lot of unknowns.
Deeply affordable would mean the rent geared to income, where people are paying no more than 30% of their income on rent. So that's what we're looking for.
The Prime Minister said Sunday the first set of homes will be built on federal lands, but Ottawa has yet to say where exactly in Winnipeg they will go. Experts say it's important the homes are put in places where people want to live.
We want to build very inclusive neighborhoods on transit with accessibility, availability of shops and services, right? We want to build good, thriving neighborhoods in places that make sense.
University of Winnipeg urban geography professor Gino DeStasio doesn't know where that will be. Nawe Odena, the former Cap Young barracks site being developed by Treaty 1 nations, is being prepared for residential development, but First Nations leaders didn't immediately respond to questions about whether they are involved.
So I guess the first step is for the federal government and their agencies to identify parcels that are, available, and secondly, that can be quickly converted to residential use.
The government has said construction of the first 4,000 homes is expected to begin next year. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The province plans to have shovels in the ground this fall to build new schools in the province, and they want to see Manitobans doing the work. Today, the Canoe government signed a Manitoba jobs agreement with Manitoba Building Trades. But one organization says they weren't consulted. CBC's Mike Arsenault has that story.
We're signing a Manitoba jobs agreement with the Building Trades Council to build new schools in Manitoba.
Wab Canoe announced his government will be building 4 new schools in the province, 2 in Winnipeg, 1 in West St. Paul, and 1 in Brandon. He says the Manitoba jobs agreement will ensure that skilled trade workers in the province get priority on the work.
First priority is going to go to Manitoba union members, and then Manitobans, and then Canadian union members and other Canadians.
With a shortage of skilled tradespeople in Canada, the agreement requires 10% of all project hours be dedicated to apprentices. Manitoba Building Trades, which represents 12 trade unions in the province, says training helps with any shortages.
We say all the time, apprenticeship training is about 20% in the classroom, 80% on the job site. So we are happy to see the province commit to have that 80% on the job site hours baked into their public projects.
The Winnipeg Construction Association, or WCA, says it was caught off guard by the Manitoba jobs agreement. It says WCA is the one bidding on large construction projects, but wasn't consulted. In a statement to CBC, it says in part, "Our members are both union and open shop construction firms, which gives us a unique perspective and voice on project labor agreements. It's unfortunate the government didn't feel that perspective was worthwhile."
The construction of 2 Winnipeg schools and 1 in West St. Paul is supposed to start this fall. The Brandon construction will begin at the end of 2026. The province expects these new builds will create 600 jobs for Manitobans. Mike Arsenault, CBC News, Winnipeg.
All right, time now to bring in weather specialist Riley Lachuk. And Riley, the one thing that always kind of catches me off guard in September is that it can still be so humid out there.
Yeah, today exceptionally humid for this time of the year, Brittany. All the result of that system that pushed through the province as we got through the day yesterday and through last night. A bit of ridging to the west of us and to the east of us, allowing a bit more of a subtropical flow into parts of the province and behind that. So Yeah, if you thought it felt sticky, you're definitely not alone. Back under a mix of sun and clouds through much of the province. Today, as expected, a few scattered showers, even a few stray thunderstorms off into northwestern Ontario and eastern parts of the province throughout the afternoon hours. But temperatures, 24 degrees this afternoon in Winnipeg, as forecast, 24s, 23s into western parts of the province. And you can really see where we are starting to get a trough in the jet stream here, and that's helping to knock temperatures down slightly into parts of northern Manitoba. Still, though, today in the south, feeling closer to 30 with the humidex out there this afternoon. Overnight tonight, some of that extra moisture, some of that extra humidity could lead to some patchy fog overnight tonight into the early morning hours. Brittany, 16 degrees first thing in the morning. Bit cooler tomorrow, feeling a bit more seasonal as we get into the day on Wednesday. We'll go into details on that and talk about some flooding in the province when I come back.
All right. Thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
Arrested and waiting to be extradited. A man accused of helping smuggle a family of 4 through Canada before they froze to death, now in custody after years on the run. More on that straight ahead. The man accused of smuggling a family who froze to death near the Manitoba border is in custody near Toronto and facing extradition to the U.S. India says he also faces charges there. Stephen D'Souza has more.
Indian authorities allege Fennel Patel was a key player in the death of an Indian family attempting to cross illegally into the U.S. Now, after almost 3 years, CBC News has learned he's in custody. This follows a Fifth Estate investigation 2 years ago that drew on sources in India and the U.S.
Did you leave them out there to die?
In January 2022, Jagdish Patel, his wife Vaishali, 11-year-old daughter Vihangi, and 3-year-old son Dharmik froze to death after smugglers brought them to a remote field in Manitoba in minus 30-degree weather and a blinding snowstorm. Indian police say Fennel Patel was the smuggler who drove them to the border and left them there. But since the family's death, the RCMP would only say their investigation was ongoing. Meanwhile, in the U.S., 2 men were arrested and charged in the family's death. During their trial, a key prosecution witness, a convicted human smuggler, pointed the finger at Fennel Patel, saying he was the one responsible for transporting the family in Canada. But despite these new revelations, Fennel Patel continued to move about freely, even appearing at a restaurant opening with the mayor of Vaughan, a city north of Toronto. This immigration lawyer says because the smuggling ring is in the U.S., where they've already convicted 2 people, it would make sense to extradite Patel.
I think there were witnesses that testified at that trial. So all the resources are there. The United States is a receiving country, and there's a really easy extradition treaty between the United States.
The Canadian Justice Department confirmed to CBC News that the U.S. requested Patel be taken into custody, but they said any more details about the extradition request are confidential. U.S. justice officials declined to comment on the arrest. Stephen D'Souza, CBC News, Toronto.
A 43-year-old man has been charged with assault and uttering threats after attacking staff at a school in the Hanover School Division. RCMP are not identifying the school or the suspect, but say last Wednesday, just before noon, a parent was causing a disturbance at the school by shouting, uttering threats and throwing punches at staff. The building was put into lockdown. Police arrived and arrested the man who was still roaming about the school. Officers say he then threatened to harm and fight police. Certain areas could become off limits to most protests in Winnipeg. Mayor Scott Gillingham's Inner Circle approved a motion today calling for limits on where people can demonstrate. Councillors say the move is meant to protect vulnerable groups, but others say it's a restriction on free speech. CBC's Cameron McLean has more.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! It's a fundamental right in a democracy, but some Winnipeg city councillors want to study the idea of restricting where people can protest.
We want our neighborhoods to be peaceful.
Charleswood Tuxedo Westwood councillor Evan Duncan brought a motion to Tuesday's Executive Policy Committee meeting, calling for a buffer zone around what he calls vulnerable institutions.
Protests are welcome. It's a part of our democracy, but we don't want you showing up at schools. We don't want you showing up at places of worship. We don't want you showing up at cultural centers.
Winnipeg police have said they are dealing with an increasing number of protests and counter-protests, putting a strain on their resources. The motion doesn't single out specific events, but recent years have seen protests over conflicts between Israelis and Palestinians, and rallies outside hospitals against COVID health measures. Duncan's motion proposes a 100-meter buffer zone around places like schools, hospitals, community and cultural centers, and places of worship.
I would invite anyone who has a protest to head down to Broadway, protest at the Ledge. Feel free to come down here to City Hall and protest. Don't go to a school, don't go to a church, don't go to a community center.
Mayor Scott Gillingham says the restrictions wouldn't apply to certain demonstrations, like labor pickets.
You will hear the police say that their costs and resource demand related to dealing with, attending protests and rallies and managing those has only increased.
On April 1st, members of Winnipeg's Palestinian community rallied outside the Rady Jewish Community Center. Protest organizer Ramzi Zeid says the center was hosting members of the Israeli Defense Forces, speaking about the conflict in Gaza. Zeid thinks Duncan's motion is directed at people like him.
I think we're being singled out. I think we're being probably discriminated against. I think that they're trying to take away our charter and rights and freedoms to rally and protest freely.
The motion calls for staff to come back with a bylaw in 90 days. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Patients who need less urgent care will soon have another option in one part of the city. A new extended hours primary care clinic at St. Boniface Hospital is opening this week. The province says it will offer another option for after-hours primary care. The clinic will be open every day from 5:30 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. during the week and 1 o'clock in the afternoon to 11:30 at night on weekends. It will also have access to lab services and x-rays when needed. Patients can book same-day appointments online. All right, Riley back in. And Riley, we were talking yesterday about you could be in one area of the city and, 10 minutes away, get no rain, depending on where you were. And we certainly saw that last night.
Yeah. Some parts of the province, particularly into the Parkland, Brittany, got a whole lot of rain through the overnight hours last night, tapering off into the early morning this morning. I want to show you some pictures. These are from Ethelbert, about 45 minutes or so north of Dauphin, and you can see the Shanty Creek as it runs through town. Well, a lot more than a creek from these images that were posted online this afternoon. This is a roaring river now, and in some cases not just flooding farmers' fields, but streets and homes in the area, as well as we survey some of this damage as it happened into the night last night, into the day today. Looking at some of these rainfall totals, these are from the Manitoba ag sites in the Parkland area, just a sampling of some of the numbers. So the Manitoba ag site in Ethelbert recording about 86 millimeters of rain through the day on Monday. A little more of that coming into the early morning hours this morning, but around Dauphin, 40 to 77 millimeters of rain, 27 almost into the Swan Valley. And locally, in some cases, some higher amounts than that on the edge of the Duck Mountains. That's because as this area of low pressure pushed into the province as we got through the afternoon Monday into the early morning hours on Tuesday here, you can see this training that happens as we see these thunderstorms just forming over and over and over again over this short distance as this low pushed upward and wrapped back around on itself. So that's why and how we got into some of these extreme rainfall amounts in parts of the province and other parts of the province, barely anything. Some cases, nothing throughout the day yesterday. So real mixed bag in terms of rainfall, but certainly some of the higher amounts into the Parkland as we got through the night last night into the morning this morning. That low now off over Hudson Bay. In the wake of that, though, some cloud cover still through parts of northern Manitoba. In some of this cloud cover, there's still enough energy left behind into the early morning tomorrow that we could get a few more scattered showers, maybe the odd rumble of thunder into the west early in the morning, but then we're left with a mix of sun and clouds as high pressure really tries to clear us out as we get through the day on Thursday. But I am watching an area of low pressure south of the border now that looks like it will stay stateside, but as we get through the day Thursday into Friday, could push up a couple of showers into the extreme southern part of the province along the international border and maybe as far north as Winnipeg here. I will warn you as we get into the night tonight, the potential of some fog through the overnight hours again into southeastern Manitoba. Beausejour, for example, looking at the potential for some visibilities down around a kilometer first thing in the morning. Tomorrow afternoon, looking at temperatures, Brittany, around 19, 20 degrees through the Red River Valley, 13s and 14s to the north. They'll have your 7-day coming up.
All right. Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
We have much more to come right after the break. Stay with us. A United Nations report has concluded that Israel has committed genocide in Gaza. It cites examples of the scale of killings, aid blockages, and forced displacement. Israeli officials have condemned the findings. CBC's Chris Brown has more.
On the same day, an Israeli cabinet minister proclaimed Gaza is burning. A UN-commissioned inquiry said Israel is committing genocide.
The ongoing genocide in Gaza is a moral outrage and a legal emergency.
The panel of experts say the scale of civilian deaths, including more than 18,000 children, the deliberate blocking of aid, repeated forced displacements, and the destruction of a fertility clinic for Palestinians all adds up to genocide. The panel says Israel's most senior leaders, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, are directly responsible.
These deaths are not accidents. They are not collateral damage. They are the direct consequence of a military strategy of saturation bombing and scorched earth.
Israeli officials dispute Gaza's death toll and the figures from the Hamas-run health ministry. They also did not participate in the inquiry and condemn the findings.
The report relies entirely on Hamas falsehoods, laundered and repeated by others.
In Tel Aviv, other Israelis also rejected the conclusions.
Nobody's trying to get rid of the Palestinians. We're actively trying to get rid of Hamas, which are only doing worse to the Palestinians.
As they watched a long procession of displaced families stream out of Gaza City, many Palestinians say the UN report is coming too late to change anything for them. Where is the decision to arrest Netanyahu, says Muhammad Ali. Why haven't they arrested him yet? What are they waiting for? The report comes as Israel's army launched its ground assault on Gaza City, much of which was already in ruins. The IDF says their goal is to kill Hamas's remaining fighters and to free Israeli hostages, although within the IDF there are reportedly grave doubts about the operation. The panel does not officially speak for the United Nations, which has not used the term genocide, although it is now facing pressure to do so. Widespread horror at Israel's conduct in Gaza has prompted some European nations to impose arms embargoes or threaten cultural boycotts. Benjamin Netanyahu has said Israelis need to prepare for more isolation as he's not changing course. Chris Brown, CBC News, London.
U.S. authorities have formally charged the man accused of killing American conservative activist Charlie Kirk. 22-year-old Tyler Robinson faces a charge of murder and other crimes, and if convicted, the death penalty.
I am filing a notice of intent to seek the death penalty. I do not take this decision lightly, and it is a decision I have made independently.
The Utah County Attorney cited the evidence, the circumstances, and the nature of the crime as reasons for that decision. Robinson also faces firearms charges, obstruction of justice, witness tampering, and committing a violent offense in the presence of a child. Former Deputy Prime Minister and Cabinet Minister Chrystia Freeland has resigned from Cabinet and announced she plans to leave federal politics. But as Ashley Burke reports, the Prime Minister has a new role for the longtime Liberal.
Chrystia Freeland arriving to Cabinet for what would be the last time.
Are you ready for
Hours later, the Prime Minister walking her out of the meeting past the cameras with no comment, after it turns out Freeland resigned as Transport and Internal Trade Minister. Freeland later announcing online, "I have decided to step down from Cabinet today and turn the page on this chapter of my life. I do not intend to run in the next federal election." She wrote that after a 12-year political career, it's the right time to make way for others and seek new challenges.
It's a great day. Thank you.
The Prime Minister then posting he's tapping her for a role as Canada's new special representative for the reconstruction of Ukraine.
She knows the country. She has respect of the Ukrainian people. So I can't think of anything better than for her to be doing that.
Freeland, a former journalist of Ukrainian descent, was front and center with the former Prime Minister visiting Ukraine, helping lead Canada's efforts to support it and fight Russian aggression. She speaks the language fluently, and a source says she'll be working with Ukrainian leaders to help rebuild its economy.
The work that Christia will lead on Ukraine will be deeply impactful, not just for the war, but for Canada's national security.
Sunny ways, guys, sunny ways.
Freeland's been a fixture on the Liberals' front line since the beginning of Justin Trudeau's government.
I think that Christia is a great Canadian who broke a lot of barriers. She was our first female finance minister.
She's also served as a foreign affairs minister, deputy prime minister, and landed a renegotiated NAFTA deal with Donald Trump, who's repeatedly said he doesn't like her.
She was terrible, actually. She was a terrible person.
This is Freeland's second high-profile resignation. She left Trudeau's cabinet in December and then ran to replace him.
Part of her legacy will be bringing down Justin Trudeau. I think Canadians will remember that. I think Liberals will remember that.
She's a giant in Canadian politics, so I wish her the very best, and I thank her for all her years of service.
Sources say Freeland will resign soon as an MP, but a date hasn't been set yet, and that this new role helping Ukraine is just one of the tasks she plans to take on. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
Now taking on some of Freeland's responsibilities are the Intergovernmental Affairs Minister, Dominic LeBlanc. He will also be Internal Trade Minister. The Government House Leader, Stephen McKinnon, is the new Transport Minister. Canada's annual inflation rate notched higher in August. Stats Canada says it rose to 1.9% last month. Now, gas prices rose 1.4% month over month in August, and the cost of groceries rose 3.5%. Rising rents and mortgage interest costs remain the biggest factors pushing the inflation rate higher. The update comes ahead of the Bank of Canada's interest rate decision tomorrow. Now, the high cost of living in this country is reflected in a new food report by Food Banks Canada. It says 1 in 4 Canadian households struggle just to get food on the table. It also says too many people are spending almost all of their incomes on essentials like groceries, housing, and transportation. CBC's Nicole Williams reports.
This food bank in Orillia, Ontario is busier than ever. Tell me what we're looking at here. What is this?
So we're expanding our fridge and freezers.
Bigger fridges, a bigger kitchen. But bigger isn't better.
So we're supporting around 1,700 individuals per month about 2 years ago. We're now supporting about 2,500 individuals per month. So it's definitely going up. We don't want to grow.
Food banks are great, but they're not, because they are an indication of something that is fundamentally wrong in our society.
The city is one of the latest in Ontario, being pushed to the brink by declaring a food insecurity emergency, stating nearly a third of households in the region are struggling to afford groceries.
So we're seeing this affect every community from coast to coast to coast.
In its annual poverty report card, Food Banks Canada has given this country a D. It highlights recent data from Statistics Canada that shows a 40% increase in poverty and food insecurity in the last 2 years, with a quarter of all households in Canada struggling to afford food.
A lot of people with jobs are now having to stop at the food bank on the way home from work instead of the grocery store because that's just out of reach.
It points to rising youth unemployment and a lack of affordable housing as some of the factors.
Personally, I can see nothing on the horizon that suggests that it's going to get better.
The Liberal government defending the work it's done to make life more affordable.
And the first measure that we implemented was to reduce taxes for 22 million Canadians, exactly to help families across our country. And we can be proud of this.
But Food Banks Canada says more needs to be done to combat food insecurity, including more funding for social supports and updating benefit programs for low-income Canadians. Nicole Williams, CBC News, Orillia, Ontario.
Immigration professionals and people applying to enter Canada say they're increasingly getting refusals that, in their opinion, don't make any sense. Some believe the Immigration Department's use of technology to speed up the process is to blame. Shayna Luck brings us more.
Chandni Ajwani and Jay Dave married in 2023. She's a Canadian citizen who lives in Montreal. He's an Indian citizen. They applied for spousal sponsorship long term, and in the meantime, a visitor visa.
What was more important was both of us staying together.
Their visa application was rejected for lack of funds, but the couple says they both submitted proof of good incomes.
There was anger, I'm not going to lie.
Their immigration consultant is a former immigration officer. She says she's getting more refusals she thinks are poorly considered.
Officers have a lot of pressure to do a lot of decision extremely fast, and that's when these problems occur.
IRCC has a backlog of more than 900,000 cases, and it's faced pressure to process cases quickly. But recently, in an open letter, immigration lawyers say they're getting decisions that make no sense, and linking that to some tech meant to speed things up. IRCC acknowledged it is using technology to help, but said in a statement, no final decisions are made by artificial intelligence, and our tools do not refuse or recommend refusing applications. This Toronto immigration lawyer points to an applicant who was refused for not submitting a birth certificate, except he says it was included.
It does not instill the confidence we need in an immigration system to foster a belief that we are processing applicants in a fair and transparent manner.
This Vancouver immigration lawyer is concerned by one particular tool developed to allow officers to examine, approve, or refuse multiple cases at the same time.
I think that this bulk and blanket treatment of individuals definitely has had a negative impact on the system.
IRCC says decisions are made by highly trained officers who assess each application. As for Ajwani and Dave, they asked for their case to be re-examined.
I know that's not how Canada functions. Like, our immigration system is quite fair.
And the IRCC changed its decision on review. Shayna Luck, CBC News, Halifax.
Coming up, the world loses a film legend, saying goodbye to Robert Redford. Legendary American actor and director Robert Redford has died at the age of 89. His publicist confirms he passed away at his home in Utah.
Mr. and Mrs. Bratter.
How long will you be staying with us, Mr. Bratter?
6 days.
And nights?
Redford will be remembered as one of the great leading men in Hollywood. He soared to stardom in the 1970s in a string of classics, including Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, The Sting, and All the President's Men. Redford's directorial debut, Ordinary People, won him an Oscar in 1980. He founded the organization behind the annual Sundance Film Festival in Utah more than 40 years ago. For decades, Redford used his public profile to advocate for environmental issues. Well, we've all gotten those texts, an unknown number adding people into group chats full of other Manitobans you don't know. Someone claiming to be maybe a job recruiter or maybe telling you you've won a free vacation. The Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre text scams or smishing is on the rise. David Gerhard from the University of Manitoba spoke with Marjorie Dowhouse. He says it's not surprising that scammers have found a new way to try to trick people.
Yeah, it's another example of scammers will try anything to find something that works, right? It doesn't matter how difficult or complicated it is to try. If it's something that one or two people will catch, then it is a thing that a scammer will try. And so the group texts, there are some possible explanations that maybe there's the more likelihood of somebody catching it if it seems to be more legitimate, if there's numbers on that list that they know, or other different reasons why people might use these techniques. But the reality is if one or two people will respond in the way that the scammer is looking for, then it's a success for them.
Why do you think these scam texts are on the rise?
It's texting as a medium for scamming has a few advantages for the scammer. It is sort of a rapid response system. And so if I receive a text, I feel like I have to respond differently than if I receive an email, right? I can ignore an email, no problem, but a text, I'd better respond to that text. And so people are more likely to check it in real time. Also, it's easy to hide the name or the number of the person texting. Spoofing a number is a fairly straightforward thing to do. And there are massive collections of phone numbers online, and you can just try a random 10-digit number and see if it works. So finding possible targets is fairly easy, and there is a higher likelihood that people will respond on text compared to email.
David, I have to ask you this because we've talked to you about AI several times. I mean, what kind of role is AI playing in this?
Yeah, so AI might make it easier to find numbers that are legitimate. AI might make it easier to respond in real time. So if you had a bot that was sending out these messages and then responding in kind, then you could farm a whole lot of these sort of initial contacts out, and then only when somebody actually responds and starts to engage would the spammer take over and try to steal their information.
What type of work is going on behind the scenes here before they actually send these text messages?
Well, collecting the phone numbers is going to be a beginning part of it, right? Because you can try a random number, but that takes time. And there are, like I said, massive collections of numbers online that you can buy these lists of legitimate numbers. So that's the first part. And the second part is to have a process after you get somebody hooked that you can actually steal their information. And so often scammers will shift you to a different medium, shift you to a WhatsApp channel or some other kind of a channel that is harder to trace and unencrypted. And that makes it easier for them to steal information and then get away.
David, I feel like there's a new type of scam, happening all the time. I mean, we've heard about how there was the grandparent scam. Now there's these scam texts in these group chats. Like, how do we keep up with everything going on out there when it's evolving so quickly?
Yeah, it's a very difficult question. The sort of usual bits of advice apply still, right? Make sure you change your passwords regularly. Make sure you don't respond to anything that seems to come from somebody you don't know. If an offer is too good to be true, it probably is. Anything that comes from somebody that looks like it's somebody you do know, just confirm through the usual channels, right? Like your bank is never going to text you. If you get a text that seems to be from your bank, ignore it, and then go to your bank's website and call them directly on the official channels that they have published. So these kind of techniques to make sure that you can trust the communication channel that you're in gives more likelihood that you're not going to be hooked.
David, we have about 30 seconds left here. I finally want to ask you, when do you know that it's time to get police or the authorities involved?
Yeah, this is really tricky because often these scammers are in jurisdictions where the police can't reach. But if there is any kind of illegal behavior, if there are threats, if there are extortions, anything that you are concerned about at all, definitely report it to the police, because they have large networks of cybersecurity individuals that can communicate around the world. And so getting law enforcement involved, if you have any concerns at all, is definitely a good idea.
Riley's back in now. And Riley, as we start wrapping up summer and getting into the fall season, I know there are many people thinking the same thing, that we would like to stay away from the dog booties and the wet feet for as long as possible.
You know what? And you're in luck. We are looking at overnight temperatures, Brittany, staying relatively warm for this time of the year. We might run into some precipitation toward the end of the week. So I think the booties can stay away for a little while yet. Okay, probably good news for Kahlua as well. Thank you, Danielle, for sending this picture in. Yes, I don't think we'll be worrying about the ice and the snow for hopefully a little while yet, at least. You can send your pictures to talkback@cbc.ca. Hey, and you know what? Maybe even tomorrow we're still looking at temperatures relatively nicer this time of the year. You can even lay in the sun, because I think we are looking at a little bit more sun than perhaps we saw today in parts of southern Manitoba. 20 degrees, still a couple degrees above seasonal, still pretty nice nonetheless. Tomorrow we're looking at winds backing off as we get through the afternoon into the evening tomorrow. So we are looking at inching ourselves closer to some of those more fall-like temperatures as we get toward the weekend here. Okay, I want to step back to yesterday really quickly, because we did break some records across the province. Island Lake getting up above, just barely above 30 degrees through the afternoon yesterday. Very close to 30s through Barons River and Fisher Branch. Barons River actually breaking a record from 1946, and Pine Falls at 28.1, tying a record from last year. So just a little bit of the heat that has gone around the province here as we've gotten over the past couple of days. Okay, so you can see a couple things, big picture here. First off, this ridge in the west dipping down into the southern prairies, so ridging through much of Alberta, some warm temperatures into Saskatchewan, but you can start to see this trough as it sinks across central parts of the province, and that's what's cooled things down slightly into parts of northern Manitoba. But to the west of us, another ridge, Fargo at 30, Minneapolis 33 degrees, and that is helping funnel in some warm subtropical air into the southern prairies, which is really what has added to some of those temperatures, the humidity that we've seen. So if it's felt sticky, you know what? I think we are looking at things changing around in the next few days here. It should start to feel a bit more comfortable as we get into the next few days. So overnight temperatures, 14s, 15s through the Interlake. Slight chance of showers through Dauphin and Roblin, 13s and 14s overnight. And some single digits on the board into the north. Maybe a few showers into Gillam and Shamattawa. Fairly good chance of some of that tapering off as we get into the morning. Then we're up to 12 to 14 degrees across much of the north with some clearing skies as we get through the afternoon. Grand Rapids, Norway House, both at 15 degrees through the afternoon. Maybe a few showers first thing in the morning in the west. 17s, 18s to the Interlake, Brittany, with sun and clouds throughout the day tomorrow, and temperatures around 20 into northwestern Ontario.
Thank you, Riley.
Welcome.
A Halifax woman has become a social media sensation and now an author, all because of bird calls. She doesn't make them. Her talent is identifying birdsong in the most unique way. CBC's Molly McNaughton reports.
Have you ever come across a bird song that sounds like the theme to The Price is Right? Or maybe it sounds like a doorstop. Becca Rowland, known as the girl in white glasses on TikTok, stumbled into a huge online following, all because she wanted to impress her mom, who loves cardinals.
One day a bird was singing in a tree and she knew immediately, that's a cardinal! And she spun around, just like hearing a sound like that. And I realized watching her, I didn't know what a cardinal sounded like. So I wanted to learn that sound so I could tell my mother that I heard her favorite bird. And then it just sort of exploded from that.
She began posting on Instagram, with her first video gaining 100,000 views. By the third, she reached 1 million. After moving to TikTok, it blew up so much that Story Publishing reached out to Roland to write a book.
I didn't know people on the internet could be so lovely. They've been so kind and nice and funny, and I've had such amazing conversations. Quite a few people saying that I've solved a mystery for them. There's a sound of a bird at their grandma's house when they were a kid, and they could never figure out what bird it was. And when I play the video, they're like, that's it, that's the bird that I remember from my childhood.
Roland says now all kinds of people send her bird videos from their backyard asking for identification. It's something she finds happiness in. And Roland says she wants people to feel joy while identifying birds.
It's not that what I'm saying is the sound is the definitive sound. It's just a way of framing the sound so that you remember it, so then you know what that bird is. The common eider is a duck that sounds like it's enjoying the fireworks, so it makes like ooh, ah noises, which is really adorable coming from this big fluffy white duck.
Roland hopes that her videos and book will inspire people to be a little more cognizant of our world's beautiful feathered friends. Molly McNaughton, CBC News, Halifax.
Still ahead, the dog days of summer. These pooches enjoy a dip on the dying days of the season just ahead. Stay with us. Getting swallowed up by the earth must feel like your worst nightmare coming true. This happened in Mexico City. A sinkhole opened up under a soda delivery truck. As residents watched, the truck's own weight caused it to sink further in. Local officials say thankfully no one was injured, but they say initial reports suggest a very old underground drainage system may have collapsed.
All right, last check on your forecast now as we head into your Wednesday watch. First thing in the morning for some possible fog patches, pretty generally across southern Manitoba. However, into southeastern parts of the province, that's where I think we have the greatest risk of seeing that tomorrow morning. Up to 20 degrees for the afternoon, looking at a light wind, north 10 gusting to 20. Sun rising tomorrow at 7:07 in the morning. So here's your long range now. 18 to 20 degrees for the next few days. Fairly good chance, I think, that we'll see some showers into the day on Friday. We'll clear through Saturday, and then here's what happens into next week. Our temperatures start to climb again, and yes, that is the first day of fall coming our way Monday afternoon at 23 degrees.
Not bad.
Yeah. September is the month when most outdoor public swimming pools obviously close down for the season.
Maybe not at 23
Maybe
degrees, but before they do, some host a party for a special group of swimmers. See who in our daily lift. All right, this was the scene over the weekend in Brighton, England. You can say pups of every breed were unleashed and hopefully not too rowdy. They call this Dog-tember. It's billed as one of Britain's biggest canine swims.
To see the dogs have so much fun, to be able to socialise in such big numbers. We don't have any fights, you've probably noticed since you've been here. There's 160 dogs running around this place. But they are so entertained and they enjoy it so much. It's worth all of the hassle in a way to set it up in the first place.
So more than 150 dogs paddle and play with their owners and each other in each session, which run on weekends until the beginning of October. And as you can see, they all had a ball. And of course, Brittany, it was sold out.
Of course. I love that. Look at how much fun they're having.
My gosh.
Safety
I love the little
first.
life jacket, exactly.
Safety first. Well, maybe you'll get one more dip in that pool before it has to get turned off for the season. Have a wonderful night.
Left.
See you tomorrow.
See ya.